Today we are painting one of my favorite paintings called Stormy Seas, and it's this really bring the drama lighthouse painting that we are doing. I absolutely love it. We are mainly going to use black, brown, and yellow ochre. That will be for the rocks. And then we are using a turquoise green deep color for the ocean and indigo blue. And of course, you can paint your lighthouse absolutely any color you want to. I'm going to paint mine a nice, vibrant red. So, totally up to you which color you paint it. Now, we start first by just sketching out. So you can either trace this or you can, so in other words, print out the outline, which is on my website. Print out that outline and trace it onto paper. Or if you are able to print it directly onto watercolor paper. Now, when I do print mine directly onto watercolor paper, I normally print it in a lighter shade. So I'll go and change the transparency so that it's really light and I can just about see it when I'm printing directly onto watercolor paper. Just because that printer ink can sometimes bleed into your picture and you don't always want that black everywhere. So here I am just sketching out this painting. Now mine that I'm sketching has got 5 levels. The one that I've given you, the outline has only got 4 levels, and that's what we used for class. So if you do want a 5th one, you can just add it in there. So that is totally up to you how many levels of color in your lighthouse you want, whether you want 4 or 5. I think the 5 looks very nice, but it's totally up to you how many levels you want in your lighthouse. Of course, you can also paint your lighthouse one color only. That is completely fine too. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit and let's just finish sketching out that lighthouse. Now for the rocks, I am actually using like a laminate sheet that I've got. So you can also use an old credit card, and I'm picking up some of that black and brown and yellow ochre mixture. I'm sort of mixing them a bit together and I'm just putting down that color using this um, laminate sheet. You can also use something like a palette knife, and you do want a little bit of white to still show. So you want it to look a bit more natural. You want some highlights into your rock. You want variation in color. That's why we're using the black, the brown, and the yellow ochre for it. So have a play with your credit card and do some fun sort of like just swiping it onto your page to see what techniques you can get out of it and what texture you can get from it, and just have some fun with it. have a sip of coffee I've got over here, and let's move on to the next step. So we are going to paint everything just with water. So I want to paint some wet on wet to have those ocean textures in the sky, and just bring that drama, have it nice and vibrant and dark. So you can even use the color directly from your palette instead of pre-mixing, because we really want it to be nice and dark. I'm also wetting the area next to my lighthouse, but I'm actually not going to paint in that area because I really want to have it look like a wave is splashing against this lighthouse. It's stormy seas, stormy weather. So imagine this massive wave coming up from behind and just hitting that lighthouse from the back. So we want there to be this nice wave, but you do want some textures in your wave as well. And you do want it to sort of fade into the night sky. So we don't want harsh lines all around. That's why we're using lots of wet on wet so that all the paint can sort of just flow together. Now I'm first just going to use a tiny bit of yellow, and you can use any yellow, and just sort of put it in here where the light is so that it can fade out a little bit. Just giving the idea of, it's nighttime, so your lighthouse is lit up. Now let's bring the drama. So we are adding lots of that turquoise blue deep green color here at the bottom. And I do want some white coming through because it's a stormy sea, so obviously there's going to be some waves that crash against those rocks. You do want to keep some white spaces in between there. It's okay if your rocks bleed a little bit into this color, but we are just adding some of this blue-green deep turquoise color. It doesn't matter, like which kind of... The set I'm using is the Kuretake colors, so they've got like a turquoise blue-green deep color, but you can use whatever turquoise color you have and just add some darker blue to it to give it this effect, or mix a green and an ultramarine blue to sort of give you the same more or less color, a green deep green blue color. Now I'm adding in some indigo in between, but I'm being mindful of keeping some white space. And now I go to my tops, and I sort of start at the corners because I'm working my way in. But as I said, I don't want to go too close to that lighthouse, and keep it nice and wet, and just sort of let it bleed, let it blend, let the pigment play with that water a little bit on your page, and have some fun with it. But yes, you can have it nice and dark, lots of pigment into it. Now with this painting, paper towel is your best friend. So use that paper towel while everything's still nice and wet to sort of just lift up those edges a little bit and give it a more natural look to a wave. You don't want perfect little lines going in there, but you do want some just some softness sort of in that edge. So if you're keeping it nice and wet and you're keeping your paper towel close by, you can just soften those edges a little bit. Continue to work it, continue to add color, continue to dab those edges, keep it nice and wet, and just add as you go until you are happy. Add. You want it to be really dark. So I know normally with watercolor we're going very soft and very light, but this one we want to play with that pigment and the water on the page, and you really want to bring the drama in this one, as I say. So have some fun with it, but really make it nice and dark. Now let's add some shadows into our wave, because your wave isn't just going to be this white thing behind your lighthouse. So I am just painting a bit of water on either side of my lighthouse, sort of taking it out to that edge that we've got. And now I'm just adding some more color. So I've got a bit of the turquoise green deep color here, and just adding some of that color and fading it out, letting it bleed into the water that I've got there, just giving it a shadow into that wave crashing against the lighthouse. So continue to work it, continue to add color, continue to add your shadows, and just have a play with it until you get to a stage where you are really happy with it, and also know when to call it quits and not to continue fiddling with it anymore. So I'm just making my shadow a bit darker back here because it just felt a bit too flat. Now I'm going to use my hairdryer just to dry this off completely, because for the next step we don't want everything to bleed into one another. We've been working very wet on wet, so make sure to dry it all off. I'm not touching that again. I am moving on to my lighthouse now. Okay, so I'm going in for a nice red orange color here, and painting my lighthouse that color. I also am going to add just a tiny bit of blue into my red as I paint. So make a couple of dots, just because to give it a bit of depth and just not have this look like a brand new painted lighthouse, but adding just some shadows and some depth and some imperfections in the paint. So now I'm just adding a bit of that blue, just maybe here in the corner and here on the side, just sort of dropping it into this red, and then not having it too dark, so working it in a little bit, and it just adds to that effect. It just really makes it look beautiful, and gives it a bit of depth and detail in your painting. Now to add some shadows into our white, we're actually going to paint with a little bit of Payne's Grey, a little bit, or you can use this indigo that we've used as well. And we're going to paint that white area just with a very light wash of indigo or Payne's Grey, just giving us some shadows and some depth in the white areas as well, making them stand out from the wave crashing behind. So I'll just do a bit of a line and then clean my brush and sort of blend out that color that I've just put down. Being very mindful not to touch my red areas because they are still a bit wet. So you can always use a hairdryer first to dry them off before you start painting your white areas. Okay, now let's add some black. So I'm adding just the bottom part of my lighthouse roof. Going to add some darker areas in there. That's the part where you can see underneath the roof. And then I'm doing a platform at the top, and I'm also painting that black. And then my windows, I will do black as well. So make sure everything is nice and dry before moving on to the step. And then add the windows and the platform and your underneath of your light shade or the roof on your lighthouse. Now that everything's dry, I feel like I need some more shadows into my wave. So I'm just going to add some more, wet it again, and then add some more shadows into this area just to make it pop a bit more. It's really amazing how you can create so much depth and detail by just getting your shadows right. So, and don't be afraid to make your shadows dark. In the beginning, I was really afraid, and my painting would just look flat in the end because those shadows aren't really popping out. So don't be afraid to really work on those shadows. As we've said before, in watercolor, our shadows, don't do black for shadows. That's too harsh. Go for Payne's Gray or something like that if you may be doing landscapes, or use the darker shade of the color you are using. So if you're going for a sap green, use a dark sap green. Add some blue to that sap green to make it darker if you are mixing your colors, and use a darker shade of that color, a darker value. So I'm just blending this color out, really bringing that shadow behind my lighthouse or in the wave. If you look at a wave that's crashing, it's always got some water or color in it. So look at wave examples if you have to sort of make this stand. Like Google waves crashing onto lighthouses or rocks so that you can sort of see the color in that wave. It's not just white, it's got a bit of color in it. Okay, now we're just adding some final touches. We're adding a bit of a splatter. So with your white paint, make a nice watery white mixture. So if you don't have white, because most of the time watercolor does not give you a white, or there is one but it's really not, you know, you can't really use it. My set has got a gouache white in it. You can also use a bit of acrylic paint if you've got a white acrylic paint lying around, or if you don't have white, use blue. Use that turquoise green deep color to add some splatters to your work. It just really makes it look interesting. So don't be too bothered if you don't have white, but still do a splatter. So do it with blue, with the indigo blue, or with a turquoise color that you've used in your painting, because that will just add some interest to it. And now I'm finishing off this painting with a bit of a splatter from that turquoise color that I had. Really make it watery and just, you know, hit it hard. Like, be angry at those brushes and get your, you know, you have to like slap it quite hard to get the paint off. So don't be afraid to, you know, give it a couple of hard hits. And it really just makes it look so beautiful and so interesting. I'd love to see yours. Thank you for watching and for following this tutorial. And share with me if you've painted this on Facebook or Instagram. Tag me in your post. I'd love to see it. Thank you for joining me today.